Welcome to the Heart of Innovation. 60 minutes that could save life and limb, with new breakthrough ideas and innovation changing the healthcare landscape. Brought to you by patient advocacy group thewaytomyheart.org in partnership with Cardiovascular System Incorporated's patient advocacy campaign, Take a Stand Against Amputation. Here are your hosts for the Heart of Innovation, Emmy Award-winning journalist and founder of The Way to My Heart, Kym McNicholas, and interventional cardiologist and founder of the Save My Piggies Health Education Series, Dr. John Phillips.
Food choice is one of the biggest causes of disease, and yet many of us still don't choose to eat healthier. Why is that? Even with poor genetics, we could decrease our chance of a premature heart attack, stroke, or even amputation simply by eating a healthier diet. Our arteries are the human superhighway dependent upon our daily food choices. We all know that. However, that's a problem. We learned it in high school. Nutrition class, right? Yet many of us have adopted not so healthy eating habits, and we have no plans to change, even with our health on the line. But Dr. Michael Dansinger is not giving up on you. He's not giving up on any of us. He has committed his career to researching and educating all of us on lifestyle medicine. And he's hoping his story and message today will be the catalyst to drive you to change. Hey, if he could convince those on the hit cable TV program, The Biggest Loser, to eat better as nutrition doctor, I think he might stand a chance to convince you and me as well. Dr. Dansinger, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thanks, Kym.
Of course. Dr. Phillips, this is going to be a good one again.
Sorry, Kym. My mouth was full. I was just eating a Big Mac. No, I'm just kidding. I think this is going to be a great show. Looking forward to it. We've had several episodes now on healthier lifestyle and making changes. Last week it was exercise, and this week, hopefully, diet. So definitely looking forward to having a conversation with Michael again.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we might want to jump into the conversation quickly. We have a lot to cover. So right to your words of wisdom. What do you think?
Dr. John Phillips, spectacular, vascular moment of inspiration.
So this is a real quick one from Hippocrates. And he said a long, long time ago, let food be thy medicine shall be thy food. So with that said, let's get on with it, right? Let's eat healthy.
I think that's Dr. Dansinger's mantra, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, food is the main determinant of our health. Healthy food keeps us healthy. Unhealthy food makes us less healthy. And for most foods, it's pretty obvious whether something's healthy or not. I would say it's pretty obvious that spinach, green beans, tomatoes, apples are healthy food. And it's pretty obvious that brownies and cookies and lasagna and chips are not healthy. And I love all of those foods.
I know, me too. It makes it so challenging.
I like a salad, I like, fish, but I also want a brownie for dessert. And so it's all about finding the balance. And there's a big difference between knowing what's healthy and being able to eat enough healthy food day after day after day. And so, yes, let's let food be our medicine, but let's figure out what's the right dose and how do we live a life that's satisfying instead of just spinach all the time.
And you started getting interested in food as medicine. You were a traveling doctor in the beginning of your career.
Yeah, that's right. So I've been a practicing doctor for about 25 years. And after I trained in primary care, internal medicine, and I did work as a traveling doctor for 3 years. Now, this was 20 years ago. And it was a lot of fun to go to different parts of the country. And I would fill in like a substitute doctor at clinics where a doctor, needed a little vacation time and I would fill in, or a growing practice that needed a temporary doctor until they could find a permanent doctor. And what I learned during this time as a traveling doctor was that, throughout the United States, there's the same problems everywhere. There's patients who aren't happy because they don't get to spend enough time or feel heard by their doctor. Doctors are unhappy because they don't get to spend enough time with their patients and they feel like they have to take shortcuts and rush all the time. And then there's hospital administrators who feel like they have to pressure doctors and patients to keep the visits short. And a lot of the underlying root cause of this are the lifestyle diseases that are driving all of the expenses and making the medical insurance so expensive. So heart disease, the leading, killer, diabetes, obesity, cancers, many of these are very expensive, very common diseases that are really, if we can do something to reduce these lifestyle diseases, we can take a lot of the pressure off of the healthcare system, and patients and doctors benefit.
Yeah, I totally agree. So
that's why I went into lifestyle medicine.
And it's fantastic that you did, but so few doctors don't. And as you said, they don't have time. And there aren't enough dietitians. If food is medicine, then why isn't the dietitian part of our annual check-in? I'm putting you on the spot. You got to solve all the world's problems. I can't provide a logical explanation for it. I wish there were more doctors and dietitians working together to, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. But at the same time, doctors make a lot more money by fixing disease than preventing disease. And so part of it is actually in the way that doctors and healthcare providers are incentivized by the system to focus on fixing problems rather than preventing problems. I think we just actually solved the problem, because if we actually, why don't we pay dietitians more and doctors less? I'm sure that makes Dr. Phillips really happy.
No, I think these are very valid points. For example, in my office, when I see a patient, and to Michael's point, I've got probably 10 minutes and they ask me what they should eat. And I'll be honest, I say, I like the Mediterranean diet, and we kind of leave it at that. And that's the extent of conversation I typically have with patients about their diet. I wished we were able to be more proactive instead of reactive when it comes to at least what I do, because I'm seeing patients that have blockages that are life-threatening and limb-threatening. And the point of this show and point of shows like these is to try to raise awareness and get people to be more proactive than reactive. And it starts with exercise and it starts with diet.
And that's when, after you discovered during your time as a traveling doctor that lifestyle medicine was really your passion, that you went back into academia and that became your focus.
Right. I wanted to treat the United States as the patient. The United States is sick with all of these diseases on a massive scale. And so I would really like to go beyond having one single medical practice and instead participate in activities like this that make a difference on a national scale. And so I wanted to get into research and working with students and working with organizations like yours to make a dent in on a national scale and on a global scale. And that's what I'd like to think we're doing today. And that's why I focus on lifestyle and got back into academia.
And what do you find, really works? Because don't we hear it all the time that you are what you eat? We see it, research reports that are presented on television news programs, in magazines, everywhere in the media. You see advertisements on social media. Why aren't we listening? Why aren't we, as the people, actually making the changes or creating the change that we want to see in our lives?
Well, let me start on a positive note and say many, many people are putting a lot of effort into their health, and everyone's on a journey. And, many, many people are eating well. If they've gained weight, maybe they've lost weight, maybe they're exercising more. At the same time, other people really struggle, and they've just decided it's too hard, or the food is just too delicious, and it's hard to compete with all of these delicious temptations out there. And so I would say all people have the ability to do either a better job or a worse job with their eating and their health overall, and we're all on a journey. And there's a part of our brain that seeks pleasure, the pleasure center. Some people picture a devil on one shoulder, and then there's a part of the brain that knows better. That's the self-control center. And some people picture an angel on the other shoulder, and we are all in the middle, of this, battle, the two parts of our brain, trying to tell us what to eat or what to do next, or, whether to work out or not. So, the human brain, puts up challenge, makes it hard to, do the right thing all the time.
And coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to talk about how to create an environment that will actually help you to start eating healthier more of the time. So stay with us.
Leg health can indicate risk for heart attack, stroke, and amputation. If you have leg pain or cramps while walking, get checked for peripheral artery disease, or PAD. PAD is plaque buildup in mainly the leg arteries. Be sure to ask your physician for an ankle brachial index, also called an ABI test, where they use blood pressure cuffs to analyze the blood pressure in your legs. If they discover you have arterial plaque that's limiting blood flow to your feet, medicine and a regimented walking program are frontline treatment. If PAD is in its advanced stages, your physician may schedule a surgical intervention. Minimally invasive tools are available to remove plaque and restore blood flow, including Cardiovascular System's Diamondback 360 atherectomy system, which sands away plaque that is a hard calcium. It's important to discuss all options with your physician, and if told you have no options, get a second opinion. Take a stand against amputation. For more information, go to standagainsamputation.com. That's standagainsamputation.com.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our conversation with Michael Dansinger about healthy eating habits. And before we went to break, we were kind of starting to build a framework, I think, for creating an environment to start eating healthy. So, Michael, there's a new term that you mentioned to me, obesogenic. Explain that to our listeners. Tell us what it's about and
why it matters.
Yeah. So lifestyle doctors use a fancy term to describe, the world we live in. Obesogenic environment, which really means just a type of environment that makes us obese. If we're not careful, the default is to gain weight and to become overweight. 100 years ago, there weren't all of these fast food restaurants and, new types of foods coming out, and people did heavy manual labor in order to make a living. But we now live in a world, and this has really been the case for the last 50 years, and it's getting worse and worse, where technology has made it possible to do almost no physical effort at all.
Yeah.
And, our bodies, our brains are genetically designed to make us want to eat, to crave whatever's most delicious. And, when there's all of these, cheeseburgers and pizza and fried chicken everywhere, that's what, tastes good. That's what we end up eating, and it causes obesity. And so we live in an environment, in our world, is going to cause obesity unless we fight against it. So that's what I mean by the obesogenic environment. And what we need to do is learn how to protect ourselves against that. It's like if you live, if you live in water, you better learn to swim. Otherwise, you're going to drown. And we live in a world, an obesogenic environment, that's going to make us overweight and obese unless we protect ourselves and learn how to swim in this environment. And so it starts with making your home a place where there's healthy food instead of unhealthy food, right? We can't control what's happening down the block or in our neighborhood necessarily, but we can control what happens in the privacy of our own home. Also, no one's forcing us to put food in our own mouths, right? So we can control our behavior and our, homes, and that's where it starts. And so we control what goes in our grocery carts. We control what goes in our kitchen. We control what goes in our mouth. That's 80% of the solution to dealing with the obesogenic environment. The other is, we all have jobs that, get in the way of physical activity. Most of us do not have physical jobs, and we need to carve out time, create a boundary between our jobs and our personal life so that we can get the exercise that we need. So whether it's in the morning before work, in the evening after work, or on the weekends, or whatever time it takes to put in the work to get the physical activity, we need to do that. And as parents, we need to teach our children how to do that. And so that's what I mean by the obesogenic environment.
So let me ask you this, because obviously the devil's in the details, and it's easier said than done, right? I mean, we all have, I think, good intentions, but in today's current environment where the cost of eggs is like through the roof, so we have inflation, healthy foods are more expensive, and you actually have to prepare them as opposed to throwing something in the microwave, so that's a hurdle. And then now with what DoorDash and some of these other things, you don't even have to leave your couch. And I was talking to somebody, they had a donut from Dunkin' Donut and a cup of coffee delivered to them from DoorDash. So, I mean, we're super lazy now and food's really expensive. So how do you get somebody just to start thinking about making changes and then actually implement those changes? What's the best kind of angle to take?
Yeah, great question. No easy answers to that. So whenever, what really helps patients, when they're diagnosed with diabetes or obesity or any medical problem, any of these lifestyle diseases, putting themselves in a relationship with a healthcare provider, like a dietitian or their doctor, to have some external accountability goes a long way. Logging your food goes a long way. Basically putting yourself in the position where you're getting monitoring goes a long way. And yes, some healthy foods are expensive, but there's also many healthy foods that are a pretty good value. And by working with a dietitian or other experts, it's doable. It's never easy, but it's doable.
How are you able to help those that were on that hit show? I know it's now off the air, but The Biggest Loser, because with the weight that they were at, I would think that those people would have been the hardest to change.
Yeah, Kym, I worked with NBC's Biggest Loser show for over a decade, from 2005 to 2016 when it left to NBC. And the NBC knew that I had experience in lifestyle medicine and weight loss. And so I was a consultant for them, and I helped create the methods of weight loss on the show and the Biggest Loser diet and the book series based on the show. And the people on the show were eating on average somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 calories, which was approximately twice as many food calories as would have been healthy. And that was the starting point. Plus, there was almost no exercise, being done by these participants. And, our job on the show was to inspire and to create an anti-obesogenic environment for these Biggest Loser participants. And so they lived in a home that had healthy food around, and they got lessons on how to cook, and they, used teamwork and competition to work together to eat healthily and to exercise. And there was every incentive we could think of. And that, by creating an anti-obesogenic environment, led to dramatic results.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I do the same thing actually in our house. If I had, and especially hearing that they have gluten-free Oreos now, complete trouble for me. Number two, potato chips and onion dip, especially with tomorrow being the Super Bowl. Oh my goodness. But instead, getting a healthier version of a dressing with carrots all cut up. I spend my Sundays actually cutting up vegetables and just sticking them in the fridge and having them ready to go during the week. So I could just grab a handful and grab a little bit of my healthier dressing and dip it in. I mean, anything's healthier probably than chips and dip, I would imagine, and Oreos.
but they taste so good.
I would have eaten them all.
Yeah.
So on the Biggest Loser show, it started with, basically removing access to all the unhealthy food. And the people were eager and willing to put themselves in a position of this kind of external structure. But really the show was a metaphor, a weekly reminder of the power of lifestyle change, and was there to entertain, but also to inspire and remind people that if you can create an anti-obesogenic environment for yourself in all the different ways, to whatever extent you can, it's never too late to improve your health, to improve your eating and your exercise. And when you put yourself in the position of a healthy environment, it can make a dramatic difference. And that's why I was excited to work with the producers of the show.
Was there any moment based on the evolution of the show and the experiences with the patients that forced you to pivot, make changes to your original plan?
That's a great cliffhanger because I think we have to go to break.
Ago, my symptoms started with leg pain and leg cramps while walking.
Me too, with a tightness in my calves.
Well, do you know, my doctor thought that my leg cramps were a side effect of the statin he prescribed me.
Well, my doctor just brushed them off as another symptom of old age.
Mine thought the pain was radiating from my spine.
My doctor blamed my neuropathy on diabetes until I got a wound on my foot that just wouldn't heal.
Yeah, it turns out we all have peripheral artery disease, also known as PAD.
It's plaque buildup mainly in the leg arteries causing poor circulation.
For me, the diagnosis came too late and I lost my leg, but that does not have to happen to you.
No, it does not, because there are treatment options available if you're diagnosed early enough.
PAD. Peripheral artery disease. If you've been experiencing leg pain, leg cramps, or neuropathy when walking, and your doctor isn't hearing you, we are. We are The Way to My Heart, the largest support network for peripheral artery disease patients, and we want to help you get back on your feet again. Visit our website at thewaytomyheart.org or call our Leg Saver hotline, 415-320-7138. Your life and limb could depend on it.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. If you have any questions or comments or maybe some insight to share, you can always call in 1-888-367-5329. Grab that pen one more time. 1-888-367-5329 is our call-in number. We are talking to Dr. Michael Dansinger, who was known as a nutrition doctor for NBC's hit show for about a decade. It's The Biggest Loser. And before the break, I had asked a little cliffhanger about when you were creating, Dr. Dansinger, the plan for all of these patients and their weight loss. Were there any moments during the show where you had to pivot from that initial plan or make changes to your initial plan for those people that were trying to lose weight because of something that might have happened?
Well, the short answer is not really. So the initial vision toward the beginning, was similar to the vision, throughout the whole show. In if anything, as the show gained experience and ratings, if anything, they were more aggressive with everything that we were doing. With the exercise, they got bolder, and with the weight losses, they just got better and better at creating weight losses. Typically around 100 pounds in 100 days was not uncommon, and there was a lot of medical monitoring going on, but I would say we just kept getting better and better at creating rapid weight loss that was safe. And so there weren't medical problems. If anything, they're disease reversals. So people with diabetes were getting off of their medications. No one had a heart attack or any serious bad outcomes, and so we got bolder. But at the same time, we recognize that this show is a metaphor for what needs to happen in the real world. And people aren't going to exercise 30 hours a week in the real world. And they're not going to, there's nothing extreme about the eating on the show. But what are people eating on the show? And so there's a book series about that. And so
Michael, help our listeners, because I'm sure there's someone listening now or who is going to download the podcast and listen and is going to listen. And they're probably thinking like I am, okay, how do you translate, or because you've got these folks in a bubble, they're insulated, you're telling them what to do, and it's very scripted. So then how do you take that next step to when you go back to the real world and use what you've learned or teach people what you've learned on the show to lead and have sustaining, results?
Right. Great question. Well, one of the things we did to help people at home was to make a new version of the food pyramid. Now, this was 2005, and in those days, the food pyramid had all the starch and bread and grain at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And we said, fruits and vegetables go at the bottom of this food pyramid. And then next is healthy, lean protein. And so by really focusing people on healthy fruits and vegetables and lean protein, like fish and seafood, poultry breast, lean red meat, and saying these proteins are helpful for weight loss. And this is what people on the show are eating. People on the show were eating generous portions of lean protein and vegetables. And that's something that people can do, right now at your next meal. It can be protein and vegetables. And so that's the main way people can keep themselves healthy and stay away from all of the refined white starches. So that's the first thing. And the other is exercise. Now, you don't need to exercise, 20, 30 hours a week, but 7. Whether it's walking or something more ambitious, if you can set that as a goal, then, not everyone's going to get there, but, I would propose, and if people on the show were able to do 7 hours of exercise and eat mostly protein and vegetables, they would have been able to maintain these big weight losses over time.
What about portion sizes? I mean, is it possible to eat too much or too many vegetables, too much fruit?
So great question. When people are eating lean proteins and fruits and vegetables, the calories generally take care of themselves. You fill up on fruits and vegetables, and the lean proteins are very satiating. And yes, it is possible to go overboard, but when you fill up on fruits, vegetables, and healthy proteins, the calories generally take care of themselves. So portions do count. A portion of protein is about the size of your palm, and a serving of fruit or vegetable is a cup. And so if you're eating, if you can let your appetite be your guide, once you get all the appetite stimulating, sugar and starch and fatty meats out, and make those just occasional treats.
And what about, because I would think that a lot of times when people end up with a lot of weight on them, There's the issue of emotional eating. How did you address that? And how would you suggest others who are listening address that if it's an issue? Because I would think that would be the number one issue that would lead someone to gain as many pounds as we saw on The Biggest Loser.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main reason most people who are overweight is because the food is so delicious and because they have a slowed metabolism. But for some people, especially people on the Biggest Loser show who are, 300, 400 pounds, there's an eating disorder, for psychological reasons that go beyond the fact that the food is just so tasty. And, on the show, there was a psychologist who worked with all the people to identify, root causes. And sometimes it's because of, they grew up in an abusive household or other, psychological trauma. And that's very common among people who, are carrying a lot of excess pounds. And we all do comfort eating from time to time. And, everyone does that. But there are, psychological reasons, and working with a mental health professional can be helpful in those circumstances. Great question.
Well, coming up right here on The Heart of Innovation, I want to hear what some of our listeners think. So let's get to some callers in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Dr. Michael Dansinger. So stay with us.
So, not too long ago, you had a procedure to improve blood flow in your leg. But now you are seeing your doctor, and he or she tells you that the stent has narrowed. Why is that? Hi, I'm Dr. John Phillips with this week's Medical Notepad, brought to you by Cardiovascular System Incorporated Patient Advocacy Campaign, Take a Stand Against Amputation, and The Way to My Heart. Today we are talking about a not uncommon problem in patients who have been treated for peripheral arterial disease. Oftentimes, when they are improving the blood flow, the physician, after performing an angiogram where they inject contrast into the vessels under X-ray to see the blood flow, they may put a stent in, which is a metal scaffold, to squeeze the plaque or the buildup of cholesterol and debris up against the wall to improve blood flow. Or you could have a procedure where they perform balloon angioplasty alone, essentially inflating a balloon up against the wall to also squish the debris up against the wall to improve blood flow. However, there's a phenomenon called restenosis, which is very common. That phenomenon is mitigated by the use of medicated balloons or stents, which help retard the growth of what we call scar tissue. But basically, it's smooth muscle cells within the vessel wall. The term restenosis occurs when the smooth muscles build up to the point where it narrows the vessel wall again. Why does this happen? Well, this smooth muscle proliferation is the body's healing response. And some patients perform and have a more rapid response than others. And again, the use of medicated balloons and stents can help reduce this. However, this phenomenon, restenosis, is quite common and often requires another intervention to sometimes remove the scar tissue or these cells that have built up, or use a balloon to squish the debris up against the wall again, or place another stent. Oftentimes, and in fact almost all the time after you've had a procedure, you are placed on antiplatelet medications like aspirin or Plavix, and those help prevent from clot forming within the treated area. However, the phenomenon of restenosis is not necessarily from clot, or often from clot. It's mainly from these cells that basically get angry after the vessel has been intervened upon. Restenosis is very common, but it's also easily treated. With this week's medical notepad, I'm Dr. John Phillips. For more information on peripheral arterial disease, go to standagainsamputation.com. And for real-time support and advocacy, go to thewaytomyheart.org.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. Michael, I need you to help me here. So we were just talking about comfort foods, and I was thinking about myself, and sometimes after a stressful day at work and after dinner, I will grab a handful of M&Ms. And yes, I'm going to call them M&Ms, Kym. And Maya, sorry. And I eat
have
them.
To clarify.
And I feel like I get a hit of dopamine, and I feel good for a second, and then I regret it. And then in doing so, sometimes I'll have more M&Ms. So what should I do? Talk me through that. How do I stop this vicious cycle?
Yeah, so
just don't eat the blue ones.
It is a vicious cycle, and I have my comfort foods too. I love Doritos, for example. And do I have Doritos in my house? No, because I'm going to eat them, even though I know better. And when I do eat them, I enjoy them, and then I'm sorry later. And the same for you with your, we all have our comfort foods. And yeah, the pleasure center loves it when you eat that, and it gives you a hit of dopamine, and it reinforces the behavior just like any other addiction. And so getting it out of the house for many of us is the only way to control that. And, I've never come up with a better, because the self-control center knows better, but it's weaker. It's smarter, but it's weaker than the pleasure center. And so that's
all right.
That's
I'll get
what
rid
you
of
do.
them.
That's
I'll get
what
rid
you
of
do.
them.
Right.
Hey, a couple, one or two is okay. But speaking of processed foods like M&Ms, we have Bill from Santa Fe on the line. Bill, what is your question for Dr. Dansinger?
Yes, doctor. My question is, as I understand it, manufacturers like potato chips and cookies and stuff like that have an ingredient in it that gives you that desire to have more. You just can't take one potato chip. You must take a half a dozen and things like that. And I'm just wondering what your input is. That something that's valid, or is it just your body's and brain's craving?
Dr. Phillips, it might not be your fault.
All right, good. I don't want to take any responsibility for anything.
Okay, so I would say, what's listed on the ingredients of the package is truly what's in the food. And, sugar is probably the most addictive thing, that could be on a package label. And, the next one is starch. And so, potatoes are filled with starch and, oil, and, salt, sugar, and fat are really, addictive. And those are what's driving it. And that combine all these foods with sugar added, or refined starch, or with, unhealthy fats, that's the source. Everything we crave has, sugar or fat or salt added.
Oh, lots of salt. I love salt. Salt, more salt. It's the worst thing in the world for you. Let's see. We have a question from Kym. Kym, or maybe we can go to, how about we go to Joyce first? Joyce?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have an issue. I had my brother-in-law living with us for about 4 years, and sitting between my husband and my brother-in-law, I actually got sick watching them eat food. And as a result, I am happy with one meal a day, and I occasionally like dark chocolate with cranberries.
Yum.
A treat from Canada. But I cannot sit down and eat 3 meals a day.
What do you think, doctor?
Yeah, great point. So,
well, it's like intermittent fasting. Is that kind of what she's doing?
So I've always been much more concerned with type of foods people are eating rather than the timing. And, for some people, 3 meals a day or 4 meals a day, if they're small, is right. For other people, 2 meals a day or even 1 meal a day. And so it's really comes down to the number of calories per day that determines weight rather than so much the timing. And so you have to know your body and do what's right for your body. And if many of us have seen the way other people eat and decided that's not the way for me, I have to be my own person. So thanks for sharing your story.
So we've got about
right here.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to break because we have a couple more questions to get in, and I want to get that speed round going as quick as possible. So our producer, Mike, take us to break, and let's get back soonest.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got a few minutes left, and a lot of questions. Rapid fire here. We've got Mark on the line. Mark, what is your question for Dr.
So you
Dansinger?
mentioned lean protein, Dr. Dansinger, and you mentioned red meat. So I'm wondering, other than chicken, what would be an example, or fish, what would be an example of a lean protein? And are there any red meats that are a lean protein?
Yep, he wants a big steak.
Let me start with pork. It's easy to find lean pork. So that's a red meat. And pork tenderloin or most types of ham are pretty lean. And you can find turkey sausages that are pretty lean as well. But filet mignon, sirloin, top
something grass-fed.
Top sirloin.
Grass-fed helps. And so with beef, most of the beef is too fatty to be healthy. But
what about? Oh, sorry. But bacon, no go.
Bacon is a no go. Not if you're not if you want a healthy.
We know what you had on your Saturday morning breakfast, John.
Actually, I don't eat breakfast, but
bacon on the brain.
So you can find ground beef that's 95% lean or leaner. And, I would say when it comes to red meat, use the 95% fat-free rule. If you can find meat that's, 5% fat or less, that's my threshold for calling it lean enough. And you can find it. You just have to look for it.
And quickly, Kym, we couldn't get her on, but we have her question here about supplements and things like that, minerals. Any advice for using those to replace if you're not getting enough healthy fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's impossible to take the nutritional value of a fruit or vegetable and to put it into a pill form. Having said that, though, people who are strict vegan diets can, get not enough vitamin B12. Some people have, difficulty metabolizing folic acid and which is a B vitamin. And so, I think B vitamins in general can be worth taking. Vitamin D, many people, especially in the northern half of the United States, are vitamin D deficient and could potentially benefit from a vitamin D supplement. And, iron, especially in, women who have heavy menstrual periods or aren't eating enough red meat. And so there's a role for vitamins and minerals, but the first place for that is healthy diet.
What about some of these? I know we got like less than a minute here, but what some of these supplements, like athletic greens, and I see a lot of this stuff on Instagram. These powdered, greens type stuff. Good.
And we have less than 20 seconds left.
20 seconds.
Yeah, I'll say they're good, and I'm a fan of protein powders as well for people who are looking to increase their protein.
Okay.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Dansinger. And can we go to your website? What's your website?
MichaelDansingerMD.com. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Michael, just so I'm clear, no bacon, right?
You've been listening to The Heart of Innovation with Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips. Our mission is to help patients live a better quality of life through through comprehensive education, real-time support, and high-touch advocacy in partnership with thewaytomyheart.org and Take a Stand Against Amputation. Our purpose is to reduce the 1.5 million heart attacks and strokes and nearly 200,000 amputations annually. For more information regarding topics you've heard discussed on today's program, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. The Heart of Innovation is for educational and informational purposes only, and advice and views shared are not a substitute for medical advice from your own supervising physician. Do not act on any information provided in this show without the explicit consent from your own healthcare team. If you think you are having a medical emergency, call your local emergency number or go to the nearest hospital or emergency room.